Hola a todos, soy Pamela de Asian Boss. La cultura coreana se ha esparcido por todo el mundo y Corea se ha vuelto un destino bastante popular para los estudiantes internacionales, con más de 150.000 estudiantes matriculados en las universidades coreanas. ¿Pero por qué vienen a Corea a estudiar? ¿Y es Corea como se dice que es? Fuimos a las calles de Seúl para averiguarlo.
So, where are you from and what are you studying at the moment?
Hi, I'm from Turkey and I'm studying international commerce in Seoul National University.
I'm half American, half Russian, and I'm studying mass communications at Yonsei University.
I'm from Jordan. I'm studying PhD in Applied Bioengineering at Seoul National University.
I'm George, I'm from the United Kingdom, and I study for my PhD in organic chemistry.
I'm from India and I'm majoring in international commerce at Seoul National University.
I come from Guatemala and I am studying international studies and media communications at Korea University.
I'm from Kazakhstan and I'm studying at SNU in Graduate School of International Studies.
Why did you decide to come to Korea to study in the first place?
The government provided really good scholarship programs, so I thought, why not? Why not come here and study? And the university itself was a really good one.
Because of I watched dramas, firstly. Secondly, we met South Korean students in my university while I'm doing my master's. They were very kind and interesting people.
I was here for 1 week and I really liked it back then. And I met some Koreans, some locals, and they told me about how good the universities are. And I read about them and how hard it's for Koreans to get into them and how good the education is actually. And then I realized that I have to do an exchange semester anyway, and that our university is a partner university, and it's quite easy for us to get into. So it's that's the perfect opportunity. I love the country.
What was your expectations before you came to Korea? Is it how you thought it would be?
As the image of Asia we have back in Europe is more thinking about China, and everything kind of looks a bit old. Back in the days, it was still not as famous as it is right now. So my expectations were that it will be a bit older, but when I came here it was clean, modern.
What surprised me most when I came was that it's such a land of contrasts. You know, right now there are these subways zooming under our feet with 900 stations in Seoul, my university with all the technological developments there. But yeah, every time I go to a mountain, I find a new temple or some sign of a deep spiritual hunger too. And we're surrounded by restaurants where Koreans love to go and eat out with their friends. But at the same time, many young men are very lonely in that corporate culture. Many are addicted to video games and don't leave the house. So yeah, I find Korea fascinates me because it's a land of contrasts.
Like many other people, there were definitely fantasies before I came over to Korea about how the people themselves, but eventually there were a lot of harsh realities that I had to face. Obviously, I am Asian, I look Asian, and there were a few occasions where I felt that my abilities, my capabilities are undermined because of my nationality or the way I look as an Asian. Compared to someone who is from a Western background.
How would you say your Korean level is? Do you have to use Korean in class?
So I would say I'm close to native. I use Korean on a daily basis. We write in academic Korean. I'm writing my thesis in Korean as well.
It's existing, and I studied really hard actually, and I know several other languages like German, Italian, English, French.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I thought I could do it, it's gonna be easier. But I think it's an intermediate level.
There's a couple classes that are in English, but it's all in Korean. And my level, I would say it's high intermediate because I kind of made sure that I knew a decent amount before coming here so that I wouldn't, face any troubles.
Korea is known for its strict education system. How has your experience been like?
I heard about that, and that's why I was a little bit afraid before I came here. I must say I don't really feel it that way. I mean, they have many things to do and a lot of assignments, but I don't have the feeling it's necessarily more than at my university. So, and also when I talked to some other students, I got the feeling that it's just all the way up to university is really hard. and really a lot of work and really a lot of studying and tests. Once you're in the university, it's not that strict anymore.
Well, to be honest, coming from India, I find Korea very lax in terms of education. I feel that the students have a lot of fun in college as opposed to India, where you stay in school from basically 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's pretty much like high school or middle school. So I never had the impression that Korean college education was strict. If you put in a certain amount of effort, it's possible to get good grades in Korea, as opposed to India, where you have a very strict grading system.
As I didn't before, I see myself now kind of comparing myself to other people a little bit, and some of the professors expect a lot from students, especially foreign students. They expect us to be kind of equal, and I feel like they should maybe understand that it's a little harder for us for like major classes.
I feel a bit guilty because I definitely haven't studied to the same point as Korean SNU students, and I don't want to say I don't deserve it, but I think when it comes to entering it, there to a certain point you do get held at a different standard if you're not a Korean national citizen. So I mean, it is hard to get into SNU as an international student, but I do feel a bit guilty about the status that it holds, I guess.
What's the difference between studying in your home country versus studying in Korean university?
I think that Korea's quality of education is really high. Even like online, I think that Korea has got a lot more of resources for students than my home country does.
The most interesting aspect was how professors are really friendly with the students. There's no gap or divide which makes us keep them, which makes them intimidating. In India, professors are extremely intimidating. You have to cower before them, and you have to maintain this certain social standard while interacting with them. I find Korean professors are very friendly compared to Indian professors.
In Turkey, it's not that, even if you don't attend a class just one time, two times, there's no problem. So people actually take advantage of this. So they don't attend class, something like this. But in Korea, they make you come. You have to attend the class because you cannot get A+ if you don't attend the classes. So I was like, oh, they really think attendance is the really important part.
I would say vacations. Here you have 2 periods of vacations, winter and summer. Back in France, we have like every 4 weeks, we have 2 weeks here and then 2 weeks here, 1 week here. And then in the summer, 2 months. And that's really different because here it never stops. You never have a break. For 3 months, I remember, you're constantly studying. You never have a time to breathe, I would say.
Are there any stereotypes for international students studying in Korea?
Yeah, like they only go out for partying, they don't care about the university, like they just free ride all the time.
Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say so necessarily. I mean, some of them most definitely, because you have like these really, really stereotypical students who only go out, and you see them, especially now, out without the mask. I think most of the internationals really care about the country and try to be as polite and as respectful as they can be.
They like K-pop and they like BTS, and they've come here because they've watched K-dramas and they think it's this perfect life over here. Which, I mean, I understand the stereotype, and it's not a bad thing, and I have nothing against K-pop, but it does get a bit annoying when it's, this is something I've worked really hard for, and I was really lucky to get the opportunity to come here, but it's kind of sometimes feels a bit belittled.
Like Korean students, they sometimes don't want to work in group projects with foreigners because they think that they all have to do all of the work, and that, foreign students, they will just like not do anything at all.
What do you think about that? Is that true?
I don't think that it's true at all. I think that I have worked like really hard. So I think that sometimes when I am in a group project with only Koreans, I feel that I need to demonstrate myself. So even if I'm just like working well, I think that I need to do like an extra mile. Like I need to demonstrate them that, like I am doing everything I can for this group project. Like it's not as you think. Like I'm not going to be that person.
What do you think are the biggest benefits of studying in Korea?
By studying in Korea, I might get a better opportunity if I want to also have a job experience in this country, in terms of visa, then cultural experience, and you already know the country really well.
Compared to Korea, my country isn't that developed. It's only developing. So, for example, if I decide to go back home, they would assume that studying in Korea and the Korean education is way better than the Kazakhstani education.
When you come overseas to study, it forces you to be a better listener, because you're inherently not from this culture. You can't always speak your heart language. You're dependent on others to some extent. And that forces an introvert like me to be more relational, to really have to listen and care to people. So as I'm in Korea at Seoul National University, a big benefit is that I learn to trust others. I have those fire-forged friendships with other international students. And one day I'll leave, so there's a real benefit of studying here that every day is something you don't take for granted.
By the way, how has COVID affected your studies here?
Well, COVID has made me take 3/4 of my master's degree online, which is very disappointing. It definitely got me better grades, I think, because, when you're taking a test in front of your computer, you can get A+ very easily. But
How come?
well, you've got Google with you, and they can't exactly stop students from doing that, so they make it so that you can do it with Google. But in the end, Google's your best friend when it comes to studying. So it made things easier for sure, but I think it does make you learn a lot less, which was disappointing for me.
And there's people that are not even in Korea and they're studying online from their own country, and that means waking up at 12 in the morning and taking classes at 3 in the morning. So
Is that because they can't get into Korea, or what's the reason behind that?
there could be visa issues. Nowadays there's a lot of visa issues. It could be because they don't feel like it's worth spending all the money to go to Korea to just sit in their house, which I was fortunate enough to come and actually study from here.
Actually, I have story on my own because I'm crying, but no, okay. I've been here for 2 years. I want to go back to Turkey and see my family and come back, but how to do that? So it's hard to come in country, of course, and Korea is strict about quarantine. All of my friends want to go to actually their country and come back. We must feel. We want to feel like charged. I want to see my parents. I miss them, but I cannot see them. So this is the most maybe challenging part.
I think that for international students, it's really hard. Mental health is a really big issue for them. Getting psychological help from a professional is really hard too, because you're kind of scared to go to the clinic and get infected. But also there's not a lot of options online for international students, and most of the times you have to look for international clinics or clinics in English, and they are more expensive than normal clinics will do. So I think that a lot of international students, a lot of the times they neglect their mental health because they cannot afford it.
Basically, the international students are suffering from loneliness. If you don't have how should I say, big wide networking around your study area or dorm or friends, you'll be so lonely. Since Koreans do not approach us. If you think if you're in South Korean university, you'll get approached by Korean students and be your friends. No, they are too shy for that.
Would you consider working in Korea after you graduate?
No.
Why is that?
I can't handle it. I can't handle the stress that they force now.
I would consider. As time goes by, I'm considering it more and more. These days, after COVID, my country has been doing very bad, and I'm not really looking forward to see what is going to be after the crisis. So maybe it's going to be even harder to get a job there. And because Korea has been doing pretty well throughout the crisis, so I was thinking that maybe it will be easier or even better to just stay here.
Yeah, most definitely. So,
what kind of work too?
That's a good question. So I'm still in my undergraduate studies, and I'm already thinking of which master I want to pursue. But for me, I want to go into business development, or some legal areas.
Realistically, how easy or difficult is it for international students to get jobs in Korea?
For my language ability, there is a lot of jobs that I cannot consider. And even those that I can consider, you have to be limited to a portion of the jobs that you maybe have to accept and you necessarily don't want to pursue as a career because, maybe there is no space for that. So you have to be mindful and see up to which point that is useful to you.
If you would give any advice to somebody who's thinking of studying in Korea, what would that be?
I guess my advice to anyone thinking of studying in Korea would be, what is your core motivation? And not just for coming to Korea and all the cultural things you like, but your motivation for the whole of your life. What is that chief purpose you're living towards when any day your life could be taken from you? I think, young men and women need to really know what they're living for and how coming to Korea serves that purpose.
I think that my biggest advice would be to try to prepare as much as possible before coming here. Don't come here and think that you will get it all figured out quickly, but try to learn Korean in your home country. And also try to look for videos, like Asian Boss videos that explain to you a lot about Korean culture and how things are working here, so that you don't get like that big much of a cultural shock. And also,
Good idea.
yeah, and also bring a lot of food, like honestly from your home country, because you're going to miss it.
It is normal to have fantasies about Korea from what you see in the media and how Korea is being portrayed. Don't always just focus on the fantasy aspect of Korea. You have to find out more about the realities that you might face and be ready to face that when you come to Korea.
¿Y tú, ahora que escuchaste las opiniones de los entrevistados, te gustaría estudiar en Corea? Déjanos tu comentario. Gracias por ver este video y como siempre, mantente curioso.